Welcome back, everybody. My name is Tucker, and today's continuation of the What's Next series covers the LA Lakers. And let's begin by reviewing the absolute disaster of a season that they just went through. Last summer, they signed LeBron James as a free agent to the excitement of many, but failed to secure the commitment of any other max contract free agents on the market, and instead went into the season with a team consisting of LeBron, the young guys, and some veterans on one-year deals, effectively rolling over their cap space to this offseason. When LeBron was healthy in the beginning of the season, the Lakers looked like a playoff team, but after suffering an injury in December and missing a ton of games afterwards, they were never able to regain their footing and soon found themselves in tank mode, even after LeBron returned from injury. There were plenty of other factors that went into their poor performance other than just injuries, the youth and fit of their roster, and the distractions of completely misplaying the Anthony Davis trade talks being chief among them. But now the focus will be on the future and moving forward. Ultimately, the team made the decision to fire head coach Luke Walton, and they were initially pursuing two options, Monty Williams and Ty Lue. But Lue has always seemed like the favorite, and Williams has recently agreed to become the new head coach of the Suns, so even though it isn't official as of this recording, it seems like Lue will get the Lakers job. Moving on now, let's talk about some building blocks moving forward for this Lakers team. Obviously, LeBron has to be mentioned here despite his age. He is under contract with the team for at least 2 more seasons and will be at the center of everything they do from a team building perspective for at least that long. Next is Lanza Ball, who's certainly one of the more polarizing players on this roster, and the story for him is still very much the same as it was in his first season in the league. He's a skilled playmaker and pretty good athlete that excels in transition, but is an inconsistent shooter. That inability to be a consistent floor spacer off the ball is even more amplified when playing along such a ball-dominant player like LeBron, and his development in that area will be key to determining his value to this team moving forward. One positive for him that I will mention is that he did make huge strides as a defender this season, and they really missed his length and activity on that end when he missed time with injuries throughout the year as well. Next up in the building blocks category is Kyle Kuzma, who had a good, not great season, and in my opinion is probably about the player right now that he will be for the foreseeable future. A score-first player that can be streaky as a shooter, but doesn't provide much else. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that, but keep in mind that he is older than a typical soon-to-be third-year player in today's NBA, and I struggle to see a ton of growth coming from him in the next few seasons. Next is Brandon Ingram, who had probably the most up-and-down season of any Lakers player. He struggled at times before the trade deadline, seeming to have issues with sharing the ball more and having his offensive opportunities limited by the arrival of LeBron. And of course, just like most of the young players on this roster, his name was being thrown around in trade talks for Anthony Davis. But for a period after the trade deadline, it looked like Ingram had turned a corner and was playing really well. A glimpse of hope for fans that he might actually realize some of the enormous potential that they had for him when they drafted him second overall. But that hope was ultimately short-lived as Ingram was diagnosed with a shoulder issue that required surgery, and that ended what was certainly a strange season for him and leaves his future in question, and it all depends on how he recovers and how well he plays next season in a contract year. And last up is Josh Hart, a player that had a lot of momentum going for him prior to the season, looking really confident in Summer League, specifically as a shooter. Unfortunately for him, however, he just never found the same kind of consistency from three-point range that he showed as a rookie, and overall kind of took a step back. I'm still holding out hope that he can be a really good 3-and-D wing for the Lakers moving forward, and they have him on a cheap deal for the next 2 seasons to try and figure out his place on the roster as well. Moving on now to the draft, the Lakers lottery odds can be seen on screen with a little over a 9% chance that they end up with a pick in the top 4, but more than likely it'll land 11th or later. Typically in this section, I would go through which players would potentially be the best fit for each team to draft with their selection, but with the Lakers specifically, that isn't really where the interest comes from for me. Sure, it's intriguing to think about what late lottery gem they could try and get and add to their young core, or the slight possibility that they end up with one of the best prospects in the draft with that 9% chance of getting a top 4 pick, but the trade value of the selection or the player taken with it is really what piques my interest, because for reasons that I'll get into in the free agency section, I think the Lakers will be very active in trade talks and trying to bring in another star player alongside LeBron. So as a result, I'm not going to spend any more time on the draft. Like I said, this pick or the player selected with it is much more likely to become a trade asset rather than actually end up on the Lakers roster next season, in my opinion. So let's move on to free agency. The Lakers are on pace for $66 million in payroll next year or $43 million in cap space. And it really is that simple because they won't really have any significant free agents this summer. That isn't to say that they don't have players with expiring contracts. They have a lot of those. It's just none of them are really all that exciting, or the team should be all that anxious to bring them back. Guys like Rajon Rondo, Lance Stevenson, JaVale McGee, and even Kentavious Caldwell-Pope. It was well known that when those players were signed, that it was a way to hopefully put a competitive team on the floor while maintaining their 2019 cap space. And even though some combination of them could return next year, that isn't the focus of their free agency strategy at all. What is their focus is on bringing in some big-time reinforcements for LeBron and the young guys, ideally in the form of a max contract player. There are plenty of those on the market, as we all know, the biggest names being Kawhi Leonard, Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, Jimmy Butler, Kemba Walker, Klay Thompson, and DeMarcus Cousins, which might sound like a long list, and it is the Lakers after all, a team with a history of big free agency moves, but when you really go through this case by case, things don't look as great for Lakers fans of adding another star alongside LeBron in free agency. Let's begin with Leonard. Ever since his trade request away from the Spurs, it's been well known that he favors playing in Los Angeles for the foreseeable future over any other destination. Being traded to Toronto and the great season that they've had with him might have put that thought on the back burner for now, but come free agency time, his desire to play in LA will still very much be there, which should bode well for Lakers fans. But the problem is he has a good relationship with the Raptors organization that could keep him there, while the Clippers have all the flexibility in the world from a team building perspective, along with all the benefits of being in LA that the Lakers have without the drama and having to play alongside LeBron. And it seems strange that that last part about playing with LeBron would find its way into the negatives in this section, but that really is the case for many of the potential free agents that the Lakers will be going after this summer. Despite his case as one of the greatest players of all time, playing with LeBron has never been the smoothest transition or the best experience for stars, and with age now creeping up on him, many players would likely value the flexibility of the Clippers to build a team of younger or more complementary players, or just simply to play alongside a star that isn't LeBron. That same reasoning extends to Kevin Durant, Kyrie Irving, and Jimmy Butler. They might want to team up with another star in free agency, specifically KD and Kyrie, but I'd be very surprised if that star ended up being LeBron. Kyrie has already done that, while Durant would be looking to get out of the shadow of the Warriors dynasty by leaving, and going to play with LeBron wouldn't really do that. As for Butler, he has consistently shown that he values being the guy on a team, preferably in a big market, and again, the first part of that wouldn't be achieved by going to play with LeBron, which leaves them with Klay Thompson, DeMarcus Cousins, and Kemba Walker. Klay is almost guaranteed to re-sign with the Warriors and trying to continue to compete for championships with Steph Curry, and I'd be shocked if he turned that down to go play for the Lakers. Cousins would be an interesting possibility, and they certainly need help at the 5 spot, but there's plenty of risk involved with him coming off of another season-ending injury. And the Lakers might have burned that bridge last summer anyway, which just leaves Walker, who might actually be the most realistic possibility of this entire group. He could end up turning down a ton of money by choosing not to return to the Hornets, but by all reports, he really values winning and is tired of just trying to compete for the 8th spot in the East, which could lead him to the Lakers. His on and off ball scoring ability would fit really nicely alongside LeBron, much like Kyrie Irving's once did, and that would provide the team more star power that they desperately need, although maybe not the same caliber of player that fans were originally hoping for when LeBron signed last summer. But let's just say for the sake of argument that the Lakers do end up bringing in somebody on a max contract. I would expect them to turn around and heavily pursue another star, or at least a high caliber starter, in a trade for some of their young players and the 11th pick in the draft. LeBron is notoriously impatient when it comes to team building, and the first time he really tried to be patient was in his first season with the Lakers, which didn't go well at all. So pretty much all their assets will probably be on the table. The first choice would obviously be Anthony Davis, who they tried and failed to trade for during the season, but for reasons that I outlined in the Pelicans What's Next video, they're unlikely to actually be able to put together a competitive trade package for him. The only way I could see that changing is if by some stroke of lottery luck, they end up with a top 4 pick in this draft. That would be a huge asset that they could include in a Davis trade and possibly put them over the top. However, as I said, I don't think it's all that likely that they'll end up with AD, so they may end up targeting other stars around the league, such as Bradley Beal, who has been rumored to be a trade target for them in the past, but they always wanted him to be a third piece to the puzzle after adding another star in free agency, rather than trading up for him mid-season and taking up all their cap space as a result. So that's a situation to keep an eye on. In the end for the Lakers, things don't look nearly as optimistic for their future right now as they did immediately after signing LeBron James in free agency last summer. Even this time last year, before free agency, there was a significant amount of momentum behind the franchise as they had a promising young coach in Luke Walton, a true face of the franchise running the whole thing in Magic Johnson, a group of promising young players, cap space, and rumors were swirling that James had zeroed in on them as his preferred free agency destination. But unfortunately for them and their fans, here we are a year later, and many of those beacons of hope they once had are now gone, and the path towards creating a true championship contender in LeBron's time with the team is looking less and less clear. Sure, they could end up with great lottery luck, or I could be wrong about their free agency fortunes, or they could swing a trade for a star, or all three of those things could happen. But if you're asking me, I'm really not optimistic about their future as it stands right now. And there you have it. That is going to be the end of today's video, and I thank you all very much for watching. Once again, my name is Tucker. If you missed any of my previous videos, then be sure to check out the boxes on screen. Thanks again, and I'll see you all next time.